everyone, welcome to the SBK betting podcast. And as we reach the end of the jump season, we have Sandown and finals day, championship final day. I think we'll be seeing more human than equine champions and such, although I think there are a few of the stars of this national hunt season going to be parading. But we do have a day of racing at Sandown. I can't tell you if it's huge on quality. It's down on numbers, but we will be looking at it. And I know that there's one person on this podcast, Ross Millar, who's slightly in mourning because it is the end of the jump season, Ross, but it's also a bit of a flat way to end. So hopefully we'll try and lift spirits and find some winners in there. But in terms of the lineup, it's just really disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going out with a bit of a whimper, aren't we, really? It does feel like from sort of Aintree onwards, the jumps has just sort of fallen away a little bit. Obviously, the one big story is Brian Hughes getting his 200, which is very, very well deserved. Doesn't get the plaudits he should get. So hopefully he's got a couple of rides at Sandown. It'd be nice if he could finish with a winner.
Yeah, I think it's great, really great that he's down there. Obviously, he has to be. He's going to get a crown to rapturous applause, along with Paul Nicholls, be crown champion trainer as well. But yeah, you're right. End of a long season. We've got plenty of racing. Too much, many have said on various social media outlets, and this is what happens. But we do have also with good ground, and a lot of horses have been saved for this meeting. So perhaps it will be a good opportunity for them. But we'll get into it. Tom Collins alongside as well. We've let James Millman off just for this week. He'll be back for the good stuff, for the flat stuff in due course. But Sandown is where we're looking at today. And we're going to start with the 150, which is the Novices Championship final handicap hurdle. And an emphasis on the handicap because a lot of these novices come into it with quite an intriguing looking mark. We've got 2 miles to run over as well. And Nappers Hill for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden is 3-1 favourite, heading the market. Headlaw for the John Joe O'Neill team is 11-2. WizKid 6-1. Dr. Parnassus Sevens, 8 Boom Balm, Dibble Decker 10-1, 11-1 Alto and Bigger the Rest. Quite a good from a betting perspective, a betting heat for us because it's quite open as it stands with SBK. And Ross, I'll head to you first. You know, looking at these novices and what they've achieved this season, I think that there are a couple in here that might come with quite a handy mark. What did you think about it?
I think you're right. I think it's probably arguably most competitive race of the day and probably the most interesting in some ways. Nappers Hill is a horse I've been really interested in all season, and none more so than when he was 5th in the Betfair, where I don't think he got the optimum ride. I followed him in next time and he was disappointing. He got back on track last time at Newton Abbott. That was in a class 4. Does get to run off the same mark here, which is handy. And although his best form has been on good ground, I'm just not convinced that he's winning because of the good ground. I would just slightly question whether he's going to want quick ground round Sandown over 2 miles. I sort of had him stepping up a bit more. And at the price, I'd overlook him. As I would Headlaw, he's been pretty prolific, but he's now £10 higher up into a class 2 from a class 4 as well. So I could find reason to look past the 2 at the head of the market, though I do respect Nappers Hill and think he will be a nice horse in time and probably better than a mark of 134. The one I came down on was the Dan Skelton Boom Born. The only time this horse disappointed was on soft ground at Doncaster. He's by Dylan Thomas, a Hoysenor proof pretty emphatically at Aintree that they do like good ground, these Dylan Thomases. And I think he's got some really nice form. He was 3rd twice in Newbury Novices, 6 lengths behind Silent Revolution, who won last weekend at Chepstow, is yet to get a mark, but I think it's going to be in the mid-130s. He was 9 lengths behind John Bomber. We know what he's done. 3 lengths behind Good Risk at All at Newbury. And then his 2 wins, he beat Parliament Hill, who's 117. Well, he absolutely thrashed him 13 lengths quite comfortably, giving him £3. Runs off a low mark here of 121. I think he could be much better than that. Jack Andrews takes £5 off. It's his first season riding as a conditional, but he has got stacks and stacks of experience riding him in point to points. And he's from the Gina Andrews, Bridget Andrews family. He would have been schooling point. Well, I saw him schooling point to point when he was 13. So, you know, he's got stacks of experience for £5. She's running off 100 and 116 effectively. He's definitely better than that. And I think he's one of the few in this that I think the quicker the ground got, the better his chance. I thought he was quite a big price, possibly because Skelton's run another one. So yeah, I liked him. I thought he was interesting.
Yeah, 8-1 for Boomborn, as you say. Jack Andrews taking another helpful £5 off. A great opportunity for him. And talked about the marks, whatever. And I looked based on the conditions of this race, after April 16th, each hurdle winner has another £7. So Nappers Hill actually carries extra weight than a horse like Dr. Parnassus, who's actually rated higher than him by a couple of pounds. So Dr. Parnassus is on 11.6, but because of Nappers Hill's recent win, which was actually on the 16th of April, he's got 11.2. So he's kind of wrong at the weights a little bit there. So that put me off Nappers Hill. But in an interesting look at it from Ross with Boomborn, who has quite a nice handicap mark coming into it. Tom, did you look around that to find something that was sort of better at the weights than those ahead of the market?
Yeah, exactly that. Nappers Hill, I'm wary that he's going to justify favouritism because he is the class act in this field. He is a Grade 2 bumper winner. We shouldn't forget that. And Paul Nicholls often dominates this card. But as you say, he's wrong at the weights, technically, given his recent win. So that's just enough to put me off at the prices. I wanted to find one at a big price. This is a good punting race, as you've already mentioned. And the one at a big price I'm interested in is Alto for Chris Gordon. Chris's horses are flying right now. He's had 5 winners from his last 9 runners. I don't know whether it's the good ground or he's just got his horses right for the spring, but they literally can't do anything wrong at the moment. And Alto was a really impressive winner last time out at Plumpton. He powered up the hill. I was very impressed with how he finished off his race. He beat a Gary Moore trained horse called Saligo Bay, who was pretty smart on the flat actually for Roger Charlton, and has now been, he's won his subsequent start and is now rated 109. Because he's rated 109, it looks very lenient that the handicap has given Alto 110. Given Alto gave him £8 and a hefty beating that day at Plumpton. Now he's going to be about 12-1, I think. Good ground's absolutely perfect. I think he'll improve for a big field as well because he's a strong traveller who stays this trip nicely. So Alto at the prices for me, Jess.
11-1 featherweight, 10-2 with Adam Wedge. Can't imagine he does a lot lighter than that, but that's Alto. As you say, Chris Gordon is operating at a sensational strike rate. I think he at Plumpton the other day, he had at least 3 winners, maybe it was 4, and Orcan Risk was the winner of the Sussex Champion Hurdle. A friend of this podcast is Chris Gordon. So good luck to Alto. I'm going to take Ross on with the Skelton selection and pick Dr. Parnassus. He's the sort of least exposed, essentially, of the field, if anything. But I think it's just quite simple, guys. He's got the best form in the book. The run behind Vauban at Cheltenham in the Grade 1 Triumph Hurdle was very, very good. He was 25-1 that day. He was much further back than Harry Skelton probably wanted to, and then he just ran on again. He's still a little bit green and running on, but the form of that race, you've got Vauban, you've got Pied Piper, and we know what he did at Aintree next time. And I just think that Grade 1 form coming into a race like this, getting weight off a horse like Nappers Hill, even though he's better, higher rated than him, it just looks quite nice to me. And he's also a good price as it stands. He's not that much shorter than his stablemate Boomborn. He's 7-1. So I like Dr. Parnassus. I think he's got a really good chance in what we have all said is a good betting rate compared to some of the other events that we're going to look at next. So TC's gone for Alto. I'm Dr. Parnassus and Boomborn for Ross. Hopefully that gets us off to quite a good start. As we're going to go to the Oaksey Chase next, the Grade 2, over 2 miles, 6.5 furlongs. And disappointing. We've got 4 runners. Mr. Fisher, a 6-4 favourite. And that says everything because Mr. Fisher didn't complete his last race and has been very hit and miss all season. St. Calvados is 15-8. He's had another in and out season. Earn River comes off the back of a disappointing run as 5-1, and Nutswell as well, 7-1. So that's the shape of the race, Tom.
We've literally moved from a good punting heat to arguably the worst betting heat I've ever seen, Jess. I'm going to be having no bet in this. And it's very rare that I'll come on a podcast, when we're covering jumps racing, flat racing, no matter what we're covering, foreign European racing, American racing, and not have a selection.
Yeah, look, I don't blame you, TC. It's woeful, really, and it's disappointing for a race where they're, putting up decent enough prize money at 80 grand, and it is a grade two. What does this really reflect about this type of the British contingent of kind of horses at this intermediate trip, Ross?
What are you two on about? Mr. Fisher, 3-time grade 2 winner, St. Calvados, runner-up in the King George. No, I'm completely with you. It's woeful, isn't it? I'm more scared of the bosses than TC, obviously, so I did find a selection, but I completely agree with his sentiments that it's not one to get excited about, and I certainly won't be having a bet in it. Burn River is an interesting horse, but I think he wants softer ground than this, and he did have a horrible fall last time. Quick ground, trying to get you jumping back. Probably the last place you want to go is Sandown, I would have thought, but I suppose they've looked at it and thought it would cut up and they can pinch some prize money maybe. Nutswell is interesting in that, he has shown glimpses of talent, but he was well beaten last time. St. Calvados bled in the Ascot Chase. He hung left badly at Aintree last time. That suggests to me that something's still not quite right. And he finished tamely. He does get £6 from Mr. Fisher, but I mean, you're scratching there. But Mr. Fisher, for all that we throw a lot of stones at him, he's running 4 grade 2s. He's won 3 of them, and he was second beaten the neck by Frodon last year. He is just a grade 2 specialist. As soon as he steps up into grade 1, for whatever reason, his form absolutely falls apart. Now, whether it's that they go a gear quicker and his jumping, which can be a bit fragile, just can't pass the test, that would be my best guess. But never really would you see a horse that has, solid form in grade 2s absolutely lose it in a grade 1. I mean, he doesn't run to anywhere near his mark at any point in a grade 1. So from that point of view, he likes good ground. He's won those grade 2s. This is a grade 2. He was neck second last year. He'd be the selection, but I think you'd find better bets betting on raindrops down windows tomorrow, to be honest. It's a race to watch from around the corner of a door while you're making a cup of tea, I think.
Yeah, I think we've covered it for long enough, to be honest. They've all got real question marks. All 4 of them can't jump good and well enough to be confident that they're going to even all get around. Like I like to hope so. I think Burn River was a bit of an uncharacteristic fall last time, where he's kind of fancied at Aintree. They're all coming out of Aintree as well, which wasn't that long ago, and they all had bad races there. So that's that. My selection, I'm just really, if you had to put a gun to my head, would be Nutswell, just because I think he's the horse that wants it the most out of all 4 of them. And Ian Hamilton with Brian Hughes. This Brian Hughes on board is nice. He's won on him before, and that's about it. But very, very, very tentative. And I think we've done enough of it. So I'm going to head into the Celebration Chase at 3:00, which again isn't got a huge amount to shout about. Sadly, no Shishkin. He was going to go here, but we know what's happened to him. He's got his very unusual injury issues. So we've got Nube Negra, who is an interesting contender and does add shape to this race, because he comes here after a long break. He needs to be freshened up to be at his best, according to the skeletons, and he comes to a track which he's essentially ran very disappointingly last time in the Tingle Creek, but he is 13-8 favourite, and he needs to reverse the form with Grenadine, who's 7-4 favourite, won the slip race last year. So Royale 7-2, Rouge Vif 20-1, Sky Pirate 25-1. Ross, So Royale was a horse that you fancied going into Aintree last year. Were you disappointed with him?
No, I thought I was glad for the drift. I thought he ran a solid race, really up in trip. Probably didn't quite stay, did he? But he's just an admirable horse. He runs his race. I'm a bit concerned that I think he's better with time in between his races, and he did fall short in this last year. So reluctantly, I've overlooked him, because I do love the little horse. I think it's between last year's winner Grenadine and Nube Negra. Grenadine seems to have his best form at this course. Nube Negra has his best form when fresh, and he's going to be very fresh. There might be a slight concern that he would have got ready for Cheltenham, and then you've got the complication of sort of letting him down a bit and then picking him back up. But I just thought he had the standout piece of form. He'll love the quick ground. I could see Rouge Vif and Sky Pirate taking them along at a decent gallop, because they'll both want to make it a test of stamina. And I think if he can just get a nice toe round, as he did in the Schlur Chase, really a very similar assessment to that race. I think he's the quickest horse in the race. I think if he can stay on their coattails turning in, provided Harry Skelton can remember to be patient. Where the finishing post is up that big stiff hill. Don't go too soon. I think he's the best horse in the race, and I think he'll win it.
It's a good point you made about the Champion Chase, which he was ready for, and the ground went against. They took him out, and with Brave Man's Game, we've heard this. One of the excuses being that after Aintree, that he was so spot on for Cheltenham that it actually left a mark at Aintree, which you could take that or leave it. What did you think of TC, of Nube Negro getting prepped for a race like Cheltenham, that not working out, and coming to this? They still have him fresh, which is what they want him to be, but is there an element that he could have just been spot on for Cheltenham, not for here?
Yeah, he might be over the top, but Dan Skelton is a very good trainer when he gets his horses fresh. I say when he gets, because he doesn't always try and do it, as we've covered on this podcast before. But I like when he plots a horse at a race, which he's clearly done with Nube Negra. And I like Ross, think this is going to be a match race between the two at the top of the market. However, I'm erring on the side of Grenadine. Since the inaugural running of this race in 2001, there have been 3 multiple winners. Obviously, Altior won it numerous times. Saida Gruji took back-to-back renewals in 2013 and 2014, and Senkos won it in 2002 and 2004. Grenadine's obviously coming back after winning the race last year. I think he's going to be another multiple winner of the race. He's another that's also been targeted at this affair. And as Ross said, his best form has come at Sandown. He won this last year when no one actually gave him a chance of winning. Obviously, Altior was in the race again, albeit he wasn't coming off a very good effort. He was actually beaten at Nube Negra before on his prior start. Put the Kettle On was in the race last year. So Royale was in the race last year, and Grenadine still won. That was his first Grade 1 success. He then went on to win the Tingle Creek over this course and distance in December. He clearly loves Sandown, trip short of 2 miles as well. Absolutely perfect for him. I think he's primed for this race again. I think he's the best bet on the day. He's a reasonably short price. I'm a bit wary of Nube Negra, but I just think Grenadine's better at this track.
Yeah, look, Grenadine, interesting. I was lucky enough to go down to Ditchit, and I saw this horse had this very quite obscure eye shield on him, and that was following eye surgery he had after an issue that he picked up, an infection of sort when coming back from Leopardstown. So he went through that. They're pretty happy with it. Paul Nicholls wasn't too worried about it at all, but the whole Leopardstown trip was a complete disaster, and I don't think it was Bryony at her best either. And as they said, they just put a line through it and they got him ready, absolute tip top for this. And as all the points that Tom's made, that he loves it around Sandown, ground will be all right for him. Paul Nicholls has been eyeing up this race for a long time, and his form speaks for itself from that Tingle Creek win. So I'm going to side with Grenadine here in a what I agree is likely going to be 1 or 2 Nube Negra. Just at the prices, I'd take Grenadine 7-4 currently, but I can imagine him coming in for that closer to the day. Right, we'll head on to what caused so much drama last year and was absolutely fascinating, still is, to rewatch it. Watching it back as I did yesterday, I couldn't believe what fell out of the Sandown Gold Cup Handicap Chase, run over 3 mile 5 furlongs. This is a great race, and it has been through the years. But last year, Ross, we can discuss it, because we've got a lot of the horses that finished up in those placings and then reversed it as well, reopposing. But first past the post officially in Rillo was disqualified, placed 3rd as he had hung left. Hampering Kitty's Light, he came past the post officially in 3rd. He was given 2nd, but sandwiched in between, but avoiding the carnage was Potterman, who was awarded the race. It was all an absolute mess, but arguably Kitty's Light should have been the winner. And he's just had such a fantastic season as a 5-year-old. The case that he just sort of deserves this win. And I know that you're a massive fan of Christian Williams, who's got 3 darts at this race. So surely you've got one of them.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Kitty's Light is a wonderful little horse, and brilliantly bought. I mean, they brought him as a yearling. He's flatbred by Nathaniel. I think Christian might well find himself in 5-10 years' time as a trendsetter, because I think Nathaniel's going to get plenty of national hunt horses. But he's climbing the weights. He's £6 higher than when placed last year, which sounds weird to say, because Potterman ran a great race last year, but he was the one horse who had no legitimate claim of winning. He finished where he finished. But anyway, £6 higher for his run last year. I think that can just find him out. Enrillo, if we cover last year's protagonist, he's a pound higher than last year, and unlike last year where he came into the race on a win, he was fourth at Kempton. He gets a £7 pull with Kitty's Light, but he was beating 8 lengths, so strictly he's not going to turn the form around. Win My Wings, I am very, very confident that £14 doesn't stop her. If you had £14 at Ayr, she would have still won. I'm very confident of that. I am concerned about a 3-week turnaround. They gave her plenty of time between her last 2 races. She looks to me like quite a light-framed mare. And I know she won very easily last time, but you just don't gallop for 4 and a bit miles and not take a bit out yourself. So reluctantly at the prices, I've passed her by because for obvious reasons, she's becoming a bit of a favourite. Musical Slave is interesting. The 2 I came down on were Streets Doyen and Domaine d'Ile. Domaine d'Ile unseated at the chair when happily 3 of my national selections departed. But he was pleasing me at the time. He was much further forward than I thought he might be. I was worried he might get a bit far back, but he wasn't. He was bang there, managed to find the carnage in the middle of it all. I think he's interesting. £4 lower than when winning on good ground at Cheltenham this time last year over 3 mile 2. I think he definitely stays. But the one I've come down on more because I'm just a bit defiant and I've tipped him for the Irish National and the Scottish National at big prices is Streets of Doyen. He hasn't yet taken up an engagement. I hope that's through choice and not sort of having niggly problems. He perhaps isn't the most fluent jumper, but I just can't get away from the fact that he's very nicely handicapped off 139. I think he'll certainly stay this trip 3 mile 5. I'd be even more confident of that than I was that he'd stay the 4 miles in the Scottish National. He was 3rd in the Albert Bartlett last year. Shows a bit of class. He had absolutely no chance in the Brown Advisory. We've covered that before. The connections must be the only people that thought he had a chance if they indeed thought he did. I think he's a decent price, and with questions above all of those above him in the market, I'll stick with him. Although I might have a saver on Domaine d'Ile, but I do think Street Story is interesting if he can put a round of jumping together, and he has got. I think it's Brian Hughes, isn't it? Brian Hayes. Brian Hayes. So hopefully. I'll land on him this time, and he will actually give me a run for my money this time.
That was going to be my question to you. When I saw that, I knew that you were putting up Streets of Doyen. I was concerned about his jumping because he is a horse where he puts it all together, is clearly talented. But there's also a big REF at Cheltenham where he refused throughout as well, where he's clearly, I don't know if he's feeling something, he's not enjoying it. And Sandown is a stiff test of jumping as well.
I think I'll know my fate early, won't I? If he jumps down the back and gets into a rhythm, then I think I've got a fighting chance. But I could well be bleating in the group chat after 3 fences. So yeah, it's not a confident selection, but it's a selection more, like I say, of defiance. That having put him up twice, I'd be loath not to put him up this time and see him go well.
Yeah, I'd like to see Brian Hayes at his best as well. A 16 to 1, that's a reflection on slight concerns about there. But John McConnell is always worth respecting when he brings over his horses in handicaps as well. Interesting your thoughts about Win My Wings, because she does have Rob James back on board. That sort of negates another £7, which must be a benefit.
Yeah, so the £7 that she had off last time, she has off again. So it is just a straight matter of just the stone the handicapper gave her. I mean, I thought that was a bit of a hefty rise, but then when I put that on Twitter, people said, yeah, but she would have won with another stone on her back. And it comes down to, is the handicapper's job to stop them from winning too many in a row. And I sometimes feel that's sort of the swipe he takes, in that he feels that Christian's maybe duped him a little bit to get 2 big pots, and he's not going to let him get a 3rd one. Like I said, if she had time between the races, I still think she's on a winning mark over these trips, provided she had the £7 taken off, which she does. But just the quick turnaround concerns me with her.
Yeah, it's just we can't disregard any Christian Williams horses, can we? Tom, how did you look at it? We obviously haven't even mentioned Captain Orr for Christian Williams, who was that brilliant winner at Kempton, beating Kitty's Light, but disappointed at Aintree. I don't know what went wrong, because he was quite fancied that day, but I suppose you just can't disregard him, considering he's coming into this with the same mark that he did at Aintree. But outside of that, there are definitely horses that have had this target long in their mind by their trainers.
Yeah, exactly. Firstly, I want to echo what you guys said about last year's renewal. Potterman was the third best horse in the race. He won. He's running off £2 higher this year. I don't think he'll confirm the form with either Kitty's Light or Emerillo. Kitty's Light looks the number one for Christian Williams. We've already talked about Christian in great depth. He's won so many of the big staying handicap chases this year. I also saw on Twitter, I think 2 days ago, he said if he wins this race, he'll lead the winner in wearing just Lycra, which will be very interesting. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I mean, ITV will get more viewers, I think. Look, I am scared of Kitty's Light, but as Ross said, he is £6 higher than 12 months ago. He's had a tough season. I don't know. I just can't back him at the prices. I said earlier that the handicap hurdle on this card was the best punting heat, and that's because I think the market's got this right. I'm actually going to side with Emerillo, despite the fact that he's favourite and has to reverse the form of Kitty's Light. I thought last year Emerillo was actually the best horse in the race. I know that Kitty's Light took everyone's eye. He stormed up the hill, probably would have won the race, but Emerillo travelled the best throughout. He jumped really well, apart from a perler of mistake 2 out. That would have stopped any horse's momentum, but he actually refound his stride. And it was only for hanging left up the hill that he lost the race. Now, I think if he ran in a straight line, he might have actually held off Kitty's Light. Obviously, that's subjective. We don't actually know what would have happened there, but Emerillo's clearly been targeted at this race. I really like a fresh horse going into this meeting, and Paul Nicholls tends to keep back those horses he thinks can win on this card, the likes of Grenadine, as we've already mentioned. I'm surprised that Hitman wasn't running on this card as well, actually, by the way, because I thought Paul would have targeted him at the Oaksey Chase, but I think Emerillo could be another winner for Paul Nicholls. The only negative is that 3 mile 5 furlongs does stretch his stamina, which is probably why he hung left last year. I think Harry Cobden will get him into a good rhythm. I reckon he'll be jumping the last fence in front. Whether he holds on, that's a different matter, but I think he's the worthy favourite.
What do you make of his season so far? He's only the 3 runs. Perhaps they've been thinking about this all along, and he's had a nice break since what was a good effort at Kempton.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good effort at Kempton, especially after his first 2 runs this year. I actually fancied him for the Ladbrokes Trophy, and he fell early on, but I don't think he was going to win that race anyway. He wasn't travelling with the same kind of verve as he did in this race last season. Then he pulled up at Cheltenham. That's not his course. Put a line through that. Last time at Kempton, I thought that was a big step back in the right direction. He's just £1 higher than last year. So I think this has kind of been the aim for the last 12 months, which is something I love to see when I'm backing a horse. The only negative is the price, because he's the right price. There's very little value in the 7-2, 4-1 that's going to be on offer. But I do think he's the most likely winner of the race.
He's had the cheap pieces put on first time out, and then they've kept them on as well, which obviously will try and help him concentrate and not hang. And Kitty's Light has also got cheap pieces on for the first time, which is interesting. He's obviously been finishing his races, but not quite enough. He's had so many seconds to his name. You'll hate to hear it, but I'm taking you on with Kitty's Light, because I know that I can sense a little, like, if he does it, you'll be kicking yourself. But I just feel like, I know he's had a tough season, but he's the kind of horse that needs everything to go wrong in front of him. The amount of times I've seen this horse run well, where there's been so much trouble in running, where he might have jumped a little bit awkward, or something's happened ahead of him. There's a brilliant occasion when his saddle slipped back a couple of seasons ago, and he still managed to win. Things go wrong around him, and he gets some sort of rejuvenation. And I think sometimes this race can get a bit messy, especially horses just not able to stay up the hill. Win My Wings is my big worry, because I know that she can stay. But as Ross has pointed out, she's got a lot more to find, and Kitty's Light's got a good weight pull with her now. And I just love this horse, and I've avoided him all season, but I think that this is his moment. And so, yeah, he's not the best of prices. He's 5-1 right now, which I'll take. He might get shorter as we get to the close to the time with the Christian Williams factor. But I think that this is going to be his opportunity for another massive Christian Williams day. I'm going to shout out for another one, that's Fiddux. It's an interesting one. Alan King's got a great record in this race, as we know, although he was quite lucky last year. But this horse was 66-1, where he chased home Win My Wings last time in the Scottish National. That was a real surprise, but I think the step up and trip really helped him. He's obviously slightly back down and trip today, but I think he's a horse that will kind of relish this kind of test. And I think he's a nice price as an each way bet, especially if you can get a few extra places. But he's 20-1 at the moment for Darryl Jacob and Alan King. If you want to find something sort of slightly outside the other bigger, the more obvious horses in the market. But Domaine de Lille is the other option at a nice price for Ross. He's 18-1. In Rillo 4s, Kitty's like 5s. We shall see how this race pans out. Is always a good one, with a couple of races not really coming up to scratch. I think that this one could hopefully give us the competitiveness that we like to see on the final day of the National Hunt season. Right, we've come to the end of our full reviews. We've got Naps and Next Best, as we always know at this time of the season. We've got a good amount of flat racing as well, varied throughout the country and in Ireland too. I need to let you know of the offer that we've got. Same as usual, deposit £10, get £30 in free bets for new customers only. And obviously with that £30, you could get on TC's Nap, which is...
It's Grenadine in the 3 o'clock at Sandown. As already mentioned, I think the return to Sandown will see this horse in much better light. He's been kept fresh. I think it's a match between the top two at the market, and Grenadine is the standout for me. The Next Best is going to be on the flat. Thank God. And I've missed the flat. I was away last week in Turkey, missed the whole Craven meeting. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't even watch the racing. I know. And then I come back for this jumps meeting. Unbelievable.
A great flat card today though at Sandown.
Yes,
so
exactly.
much, so many runners.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I am looking forward to watching that though. But look, the Next Best on Saturday is on the flat. It's the 8:05 at Doncaster, and a horse called Levitate. This is a really interesting 3-year-old 1.5 handicap. I think there's going to be plenty of subsequent winners from the race. The market will probably favour a whole lot of Moon, who's represents Richard Hughes, and State Legend, who represents James Ferguson and has been in good form. Those two horses will win races. But I think the better handicapped horse in the race is Levitate for Mark and Charlie Johnson. He's only had 3 runs. He finished 3rd and 2nd in a couple of novice events in the autumn. First time up, he was beaten by a horse called Nation's Pride, who's actually really talented. He's rated, I think, in the 100s now. He won at Meydan recently. And then he came back off a break, finished a good 3rd at Pontefract from the front. Jason Hart just kicked him behind too soon. He actually drew miles clear of the 4th, 5th and 6th, but he was beaten by 2 well-handicapped runners, including the winner, Savvy Victory, who's got good form for Sean Woods. He's by 2014 Derby winner, Australia. He's out of a Dr. Fong mare. There's plenty of stamina in his pedigree. To step up to a mile and 4 furlongs will suit. I think we're going to get a nice price. Levitate is the Next Best, 8:05 at Doncaster.
Well, very convincing and compelling case for Levitate, who's 13-2. Quite like that, Tom?
Yeah, I love that. I think it'll probably attract some support, maybe go off around 5-1, but I think this race is absolutely perfect for him. And Charlie and Mark Johnson's horses tend to get overlooked when they don't win a maiden and they go straight into handicap company. He's seen as obviously a trainer who, runs his horses very often and has these, battle hardened and sturdy handicappers, but he can get these first time up handicap debutant winners. And I think Levitate could be one of those. Okay,
well, that's a lot to look forward to if everything goes wrong at Sandown. We've got decent racing at Doncaster, the final race of the day. It's 8:05 from TC. Thank you for that. And Ross, where have you found your nap in your Next Best?
Well, first of all, we need to say that TC is hoping Levitate can take his form to a new level. My nap. Never would you think it, TC napping one over the jumps while I nap one on the flat. But I do really like Richard Hughes' horse Brentford Hope in the 3:45 at Haydock. He has much the best form in the race, hence the fact he's top weight. But Benoit de la Sayette takes off a really valuable £7. He'll be looking to get his career back on track. It could be that he needs slightly softer ground, and I think that's perhaps why he's as big as he is. But he ran to a mark, I've got to run to a mark well above 100 when 4th in a listed contest at Windsor last summer. Perhaps mild concern that it's his first run and he might come on for it, but then I wonder why you would book a conditional away from your yard for your first run if you're not thinking you're cherry ripe. So I think at 13-2 he is with SBK. I think that's a big price for the best horse in the field. And then my Next Best is Boomborn in the first at Sandown for all the reasons we discussed. I think he's still very well handicapped. I like Jack Andrews over hurdles. I think he's good value for £5. And I think he get the Skeltons off to a good start on the Saturday.
Fabulous, yeah. And Richard Hughes' horses are running well. They've been really impressed by 2-year-olds first time out as well. So he comes into it in good form. So Brentford Hope 13-2 for Ross's flat nap. I never thought I'd see the day. We're turning him. I know he's mourning, but he's accepting his fate. It was always gonna happen. And I'm gonna add to that with another flat nap. I'm going to Doncaster in the 605 Spirit of the Bay. This is a filly that I was really like last season. She went on a winning roll that saw her win 4 on the bounce. And she returned to the track at Kempton last month in a handicap, which she was probably a little bit too far back than Hector Crouch would have wanted her to be, but she ran a fine race. She only beaten half a length into 4th by Proclaimer, who was on a bit of a roll himself and had race fitness on his side. She reappears off the same mark of 83, and she probably will go off shorter than what her price is at the moment, which is 13-8, but I think that she's a really nice filly by Cable Bay, a 4-year-old now. Clive Coxeam are running really well. Now she's got that race fitness on her side. I think that she could get back to winning ways. So that's my nap in the 605 at Doncaster on Saturday. And my next best will be Kitty's Light because I think it's just going to happen for him, and he can get redemption for last year. I don't think that £6 rise is going to be too much to worry about. I think he's improved. As a 6-year-old, he could be even better next year. So look forward to him on Saturday. Thanks to Ross, thanks to TC. We've got a small matter of the first classics of the season next week. The 1,000 and 2,000 guineas. I can see even Ross is salivating at the idea. I know that when it gets to the classics and gets to these big ones, that's what it's all about. So, and it's going to be a pretty decent 2,000 guineas as well. So I look forward to having the full team back with us to preview those races, and hopefully we'll come into it with a bit of success from this weekend. So thanks to TC, thanks to Ross. Please make sure to like, subscribe, tell all your friends about the SBK Betting Podcast, and that's bye for now.